Hello everybody, dear friends, dear astrology lovers, my English-speaking followers. Here is Olga Vasilchuk. I would like to present you today the analysis of the transit planetary aspects for 2 weeks from September 24th. It will be the full moon in Aries until October 8, 2018. Dear friends, the video of today will be really short because we have relatively few aspects. Yes, sometimes it happens that some weeks are richer in aspects. Let's talk about what we have, right? So this full moon, the full moon in the second degree of Aries, the sun will be in Libra and the moon in Aries, will be a complex full moon with the moon in nervous Aries, although supported by the sextile with its ruler Mars. The moon is in Aries, the ruler of Aries is Mars, and the moon forms the sextile 60 degrees aspect with Mars. But at the same time, their position Sun-Moon is aggravated by a square with the Saturn, and this aspect is much more powerful than the sextile moon Mars. So it means that the axis of the full moon, the position Sun-Moon, forms two squares with the Saturn, which is on the top of the configuration of the pattern, the T-square. Excessive emotivity is not the best option, if you talk about the strategy or behavior, but at the same time, the attempt to stifle feelings and emotions will end in extreme frustration. We will have to slip between the hammer and the anvil. This is the time of result. As any full moon is the time of results. For some of you, it can bring career advancement. For someone else, difficulties to progress in his projects or problems in professional sphere, first of all. But in overall, this will be a difficult time. It can create tensions in relationships, in business partnerships, or in your work environment. Recent initiatives, goals, and objectives may encounter obstacles, and this will force us to bring adjustments to the initial plans that we created normally 2 weeks ago at the moment of the new moon, in the beginning of the lunar month. The time of the full moon increases the desire for action and also our impatience. But for now, in order to keep the situation under control, it's necessary to act as the sun in Libra suggests. The square of the sun and Saturn, which becomes exact on the day of the full moon, calls for serious analysis of initiatives and relationships to determine how our interests and needs are compatible with the needs and the interests of our partners in plural, and it will help us to find a balance that would be acceptable for the both parts. So the square Sun-Saturn, the Sun in Libra, Saturn in Capricorn, can bring limitations and hardships for many of us. But only this will be limitations and hardships if the person doesn't live according to the laws, to the rules of nature of society, because Saturn is the symbol of society. The resolution of a difficult situation, if you find yourself in a difficult situation, will be facilitated by our acceptance of this situation, by discipline, and by our inclusion or involvement in collective activities. There is a possibility of confronting rules which will be too strict, to confront restrictions that limit our freedom of action and our freedom of self-expression. In personal and family relationships, tensions and conflicts can arise. But at the same time, like almost 2 days after the full moon and after the square Sun-Saturn, the Sun in Libra is in trine with the Mars in Aquarius, which will help us to get out of any embarrassing situation thanks to our inclusion to our participation in collective activities. The impact of the trine of Mars and the Sun, encourages fast and decisive action. But now it's better to bring physical activity, to use our energy to bring physical activity into the field of, for example, sport. We can exercise a lot, walk a lot. We have to put this energy into work at home that requires physical effort. But since both aspects are formed at the moment of the full moon, that gives them a very special weight. On September 30, Pluto becomes direct in the 19th degree of Capricorn. I remind you that its retrograde phase lasted since the 22nd of April 2018. Pluto retrograde transforms the deep individuality of people, confronting them with their imperfections and with the imperfections of the past, and it forces us to become aware of our darkest sides and to eradicate these darkest sides. You have to check by which house of your horoscope the retrograde Pluto was transiting. It will show you it will allow you to understand which spheres of your life underwent deep transformations. So the last days of September is a very constructive, a positive period before a series of retrograde phases of fast planets that will last from October 5th until December 6th. I remind you that Mercury will be retrograde from November 16 until December 6th, and Venus will be retrograde from October 5th until November 6th. In early October, Venus will be stationary, so it will be good to use the end of September and a couple of days in October for realization of interesting projects. Because look, you see, all the fast planets are direct for the moment. Mercury, Venus, Mars are direct. Jupiter, Saturn are direct. And Pluto will be also direct. So it's a very productive period. Use these days to finish something, or even to start something interesting, something new. October 2nd, Mercury is in square with Pluto. Suspicion and mistrust, latent struggle for power and influence, inability to carry out productive mental activity, irritability and sarcasm. These are the tendencies which are brought by this aspect square, Mercury-Pluto. Breakdowns of equipment and of means of communication are possible, so beware of fraud, deception and slander. So our Venus on the October 5th becomes retrograde in the 11th degree of Scorpio, but I will talk in details about the retrograde phase of Venus in a separate video. With the start of its retrograde loop in September, Venus entered the active phase of completing its cycle and marked the beginning of the restructuring of our value systems. So now we live the time of finalization, of conclusion, of results in the way we have built our relationships with others in society, in the way we were creating our own well-being, in the way we were defining the centers of our gravity. Venus symbolizes our partnership relationships, our vision of the beauty of the outside and material world, our attitude towards material values. So we will undergo the transformations in all these spheres of life, partnership relationships, material values, during the retrograde phase of Venus. But transformation and restructuring are the essence of the sign of Scorpio already. So the restructuring in all that has been enumerated will be even deeper. This will be particularly intense during the first days, even half of October, when Venus will be in its stationary phase. Valuable and beautiful objects, like for example jewelry, can break during these days, Venus stationary. this will be a symbolic reflection of what is happening at all levels of life and especially on the internal plan. In partnership relationships, we will experience a particular intensity of passion, feelings, and emotions, when the inner states will dominate the outer forms. In old forms of exchange, of course, many contradictions and unfulfilled desires have accumulated, and that is what will burst out during the retrograde phase of Venus. And I will talk about it in a separate video, my dear friends. So happy full moon, take care of yourself, and I talk to you very, very soon. Goodbye.